What is Qatar Business Class like when you're not in QSuite? Whilst QSuite might be one of the best business class products in the world, it's not available on all of Qatar's flights. So when this isn't available, is business class still worth it with Qatar? That's what we're finding out today as we take a 9.5-hour flight from Doha over to Bali on a 787. Let's get going. We had arrived into Doha on a QSuite's flight from Heathrow, and we actually had a 12-hour connection here from around 5 AM to 5 PM. Now, we did briefly consider leaving the airport, but because we're going to be back in Doha for a few days in a couple of months, we decided instead to just stay at the airport and take advantage of the incredible lounges that Qatar Airways has here. We felt like stretching our legs, and the queue at the main Al Marjan lounge was actually quite long, so we decided to start things off over at the Garden Lounge. The Al Marjan Garden Lounge is the newest business class lounge here in Doha. It's an absolutely massive and beautiful space that overlooks the orchard at Doha Airport. We were pretty exhausted by this point. It was around 6 AM Doha time. We'd only had about an hour or two sleep on the flight, so we decided to book one of the quiet rooms for a while. We didn't manage a huge amount of sleep in this quiet room, but we managed to get a bit, and by the time we emerged, the lounge was absolutely deserted. Most flights coming into Doha are for late night connections going into the early morning, so if you're here during the day, you'll find it's pretty much deserted, and it's a really nice, pleasant place to be. It really does feel like you've got the whole place to yourself. We grabbed a light breakfast of some fresh fruit and a coffee, and then went to freshen up further at the showers. There's plenty of lovely private showers available to use, fully stocked with diptyque amenities, and you can also get toothbrush, toothpaste, and shaving kits. Gotta say, feeling massively rejuvenated from that shower, feel like a new person again, ready to go explore the lounges a bit more and have some good food. And so, after relaxing in the Garden Lounge for a little bit longer, we then decided to make our way over to the main Al Marjan Lounge. Although this is my third time in Doha Airport, this is actually the first time that I've made it over to the main Al Marjan Lounge. The last time I was here, I just stayed in the garden, and the time before that we were flying economy and we were only able to enter the status lounge. As I mentioned earlier, the airport just feels deserted during the day, especially at this side of the airport. It did get slightly busier as we made our way over to the main Al Marjan Lounge. As with the Garden Lounge, this is a vast space, beautifully decorated throughout, with both lounges featuring these key water features and plenty of seating. We decided to start out with a quick loop around the lounge to see what it had to offer. If you did want somewhere to lie down without going into the quiet rooms, there are these nice reclining areas. It's less private than the quiet rooms, but you do get more of a reclined position, whereas the seats that we had in the quiet rooms in the Garden Lounge, they don't actually recline that much. And you are a bit more upright in those and it's more difficult to sleep, but you get the darkness and the privacy, so it's probably better for that perspective. After making our way around a few other seating areas and a business centre, we made our way up to the main dining area, which is upstairs. There's a great buffet selection and also some a la carte dining. We decided to order off the menu, both getting some sushi, and I also got this nice sticky beef dish before going and grabbing a dessert from the buffet area. After this, we decided to make our way back over to the Garden Lounge. We just found it a nicer place to relax. You've got the orchard views, plenty of natural light from these ceilings, and we also wanted to have a bit of a walk around the orchard itself. The orchard often gets compared to the Jewel at Singapore Changi Airport, and while the Jewel might be a bit grander than this, the orchard does have the advantage of being airside. And for those who don't have lounge access, this can be a great place to spend some time whilst waiting for your flight. By the time we'd looped around here a few times, our 12 hours were finally up and it was time to go board our flight. We were called to the gate relatively early, and they do that thing where you have to go check your boarding pass and your passport and go sit in a waiting room for, quite a while before they actually call you through to board the plane. Thankfully, the area wasn't too overcrowded. It was actually relatively pleasant and the seats were comfortable enough, so after 12 hours at the airport, this wait didn't feel like too long before we were getting on board. And we were really looking forward to getting on board, seeing what the seats were going to be like, and getting into that onboard service. The seat layout in business class is 1-2-1 over 6 rows. However, row 6 only actually has 2 seats right in the middle. These are sandwiched between the 2 toilets, which may not seem too appealing, but actually when we saw it on board, it actually seemed like a really private place to be. However, we opted for seats 3E and F in the middle of the cabin. First impressions of the seat are that it looked great, but it didn't seem like it would offer much privacy. But let's take a quick look around. There was a good amount of legroom and quite a long foot cubby, and then to the right of this there was this good spacious storage bin, and a power outlet just above this. Above this is a shelf which has all the seat controls. There's a USB charging port, and then another bigger shelf which has my amenity kit, a bottle of water, a document holder, and a reading light which can be adjusted. The seat itself was comfy, but as you can tell by this, it's not the biggest, tallest seat in the world. There's a privacy divider between the seats, but you can easily see over this if you sat upright. And don't worry, we do figure out how to put that down later. In the armrest to the left you've got even more storage, and this is also where you'll find the earphones. And then by my feet there was a small drawer where shoes could go, at least in theory anyway. Seat controls are very comprehensive and you can put the seat in a lot of different comfortable positions. I noticed you could also lower the armrest with this button too, which really helps to widen the space when you're in lie flat mode. The tray table is found underneath the IFE monitor and it pulls out like this, and you can fold it over to make a bigger tray. It's a really big size, and despite the fold in the middle, it was really sturdy. Now let's take a look underneath this at the foot cubby. Whilst it definitely narrows a bit at the end, it's not super narrow and it seems to be quite far as well. I'm 6 foot tall and sat in an upright position, my feet can barely reach the leg rest. No individual air vents on this one, but thankfully the cabin was kept at a great temperature throughout the flight. The cabin crew handed me a delicious glass of champagne to enjoy and welcome me on board, and I was also able to use this refreshing towel that had been left at the seat. And sipping the champagne made me decide to take a look at what other drinks and food would be on offer for the flight. There's a nice range of champagnes, wines and cocktails available, and all seem to be the exact same offerings as what was on our previous QSuite flights on the way here. Thankfully the food menu did seem to be a bit different. Qatar do now offer caviar service on some flights out of Doha, but unfortunately not on this one, so the Arabic meze was going to be my choice for that. And whilst all the mains looked good to me, I couldn't look too far past the beef. At this point I finally figured out there was no fancy trick to the privacy divider, it just needed pushing down. So we were able to enjoy a glass of champagne together. Let's have a quick look at the amenities provided on board. Men get this black bag from Dictique, whereas women get a white one. Inside though, both kits have an eye mask, socks, earplugs, fragrance, body lotion, moisturiser and lip balm, all from Dictique. The crew also came around and handed out pyjamas, which are provided by the white company, and additional amenities such as toothbrushes and toothpaste can be found in the bathrooms. For the entertainment on board, there's a good sized screen, definitely not as big as you get on QSuite, but it's still good quality and a decent size, especially for the distance you are from it. And as you expect, a really great range of films and TV shows. Although as I mentioned in my QSuites video, they don't have full series for all the TV shows they have on there. And before too long, it was time for us to get going and the safety demo started to play.
Please pay attention as we take you on a journey to our many destinations and demonstrate the safety features of this aircraft. For safety reasons, with the exception of...
Now since I had no chance of any good takeoff using this middle seat, I decided to get the earphones out and start watching something. The earphones had good sound quality and did a decent job of noise cancelling as well. In fact, they're so good that Kelly was actually oblivious to the fact that we'd even taken off, which I think also shows just how smooth that takeoff was. So let's get into the incredible onboard service. But first, I'm often asked if there are any good travel reward cards that don't have fees on overseas transactions. My answer to that question, and the card that I'm personally using for my overseas spend, is also the fantastic sponsor of today's video, and that's Yonder. Yonder offers reward points that you can use on experiences such as dining, theatre and travel experiences, and you can now also redeem on any airline at any time with no restrictions. Points that are earned on the full membership, which is £15 a month, can be worth as much as 2.5p per every pound spent. Powered by MasterCard, the card is accepted globally, and with zero foreign transaction fees, as well as worldwide family travel insurance on the full version of the card. It's a great option for frequent travellers like you and me when spending overseas. I've used Yonder for recent purchases in Bali and Singapore, and I was able to then redeem a few of my points to get an eSIM to use whilst I was over there. The app is also incredibly user-friendly and it gave me real-time information on the exchange rate, told me exactly what I'd spent when I'd spent it, which made it really easy to track my spending whilst abroad. I found the application process really quick and simple, and it also makes use of open banking, which can make it a lot easier for those with limited UK credit history to get accepted. So sign up today and try it out for yourself via the referral link in the description. You'll get your first 3 months for free, and you'll also get 10,000 points as a sign-up bonus. And now, back to the video. Once up in the air and with the cabin mood lighting in full swing, I decided to kick off my shoes and make myself a bit more comfortable. I did attempt to get my shoes in this drawer here. For context, these are size 11 ons, and unfortunately the drawer would not close in there. I think they're just a bit too chunky, these shoes. So they were just going to have to sit in the cubby in front of me, but you'll have no problem with smaller shoes. I then decided to make the seat a bit more comfortable, so kicking up the leg rest and reclining the seat down a bit. And even with the leg rest fully up and the seat reclined a bit, my feet still weren't quite reaching the footrest, so you really do get a good amount of leg room in that cubby. The crew then came around with a small dish of nuts. These were cold but they were nicely seasoned and tasted good, and this was accompanied with my pre-ordered drink. It was supposed to be an old fashioned, but with no ice and with the sugar completely undissolved in the bottom of the glass, it was a bit more like having a whiskey, which I didn't really mind at all. Towards the back of the cabin there's some snacks available you can grab at any time, and I made my way to have a look in the bathrooms. These were kept nice and clean throughout the flight, plenty of amenities available including the toothbrush and toothpaste. Gave my face a quick blast of the facial mist, and I love that these bathrooms have windows but not much to see at this time of night. And as I returned to my seat, the crew were getting ready for the dinner service, starting with a tablecloth, and then the table set up really nicely. You've got your breads, your oils and butter, you've got your fake candle. Both myself and Kelly opted for the tomato chili oil. We discovered this on the previous flight and absolutely loved it, so we were keen to get that again. And didn't waste a drop of that as we were dipping our bread in. So definitely one I'd recommend if you're flying with Qatar. And I polished most of that off before the starter even arrived. I went for a glass of Sauvignon Blanc to accompany the meal. And for my starter I had the Arabic meze. I was really impressed that it was actually different things from what we'd had on our previous flight, because I did get the Arabic meze on that one as well, but I did think it was good that despite ordering the same thing there was a bit of variety in what I was eating, and it was all really tasty as well, same as on the previous flight. And when I finished that off, my plate was cleared. The crew then brought out my steak. Steak can be a very tricky one on a plane. It's very rare for them to be able to do it well, as there can be a tendency for it to be overcooked and a bit dry and pretty tough sometimes. But Qatar did a fantastic job here. It doesn't look very rare when I was cutting into it, but it was absolutely delicious, really tender. Very impressed to get a steak of this quality in the sky, and I absolutely cleared my plate. And I was starting to get pretty full at this point, but given the quality of the food there was no way I was stopping with there. Went straight in for the cheese course. And once again, really impressed to see variety of the previous flight. I did get the cheese there as well, but it was a different variety of cheeses, different accompanying things on the plate, so really good. And I do have a sweet tooth, so I had to finish off with the sweet dessert as well. But I'm not sure what they're using to freeze the ice cream. Absolutely solid, and it wasn't melting quickly either. I did end up leaving a fair bit of this one, to be honest, not really for me. And with the meal concluded, it was time to get ready for bed, putting on the white company pyjamas, which are really comfy, and as I was doing that the crew had got my bed ready, putting the mattress topper on. And I've got to say, I found this to be a really comfy bed. I actually slept a lot better in here than I did in our QSuite flight before this. There's a great width to the bed, and the seat itself is really comfortable, and the mattress just adds a bit of extra comfort on top of that. And despite how it looks on the video here, I didn't find the foot cubby to be particularly narrow. I did feel like I had plenty of space. So whilst the seat may lack some privacy, I really didn't have any issues with it. I think it probably helped as well that the cabin was kept a nice temperature on this flight. On our previous QSuite one, the cabin was absolutely boiling, so it's really hard to sleep, especially with the thick duvet that they give you, and the pyjamas are pretty warm if you're wearing those as well. I think I got about 5 hours sleep, so not bad at all, and as I woke up the crew were preparing breakfast. It started with a fruit plate, and before I'd even made a dent in that, they brought round my pancakes as well, so I had it all on one tray in one go. Really nice quality and a nice way to just start to wake up as the sun started to rise out the window. Anytime there's a breakfast option on these flights that isn't meat or eggs, I'll always tend to go for that because it's never good for a breakfast. Please do let me know if you've ever found a good egg on a plane. By the time breakfast was finished, it was really starting to brighten up in the cabin and I was starting to wake up quite nicely. I was handed another refreshing towel, which was quite useful for waking up, and then we were also given a lovely box of chocolates to finish off the onboard service. I asked the crew for a cappuccino to accompany this, and they brought this in a to-go cup so I could drink it once we continued to land. It had been a really enjoyable flight. I think the crew were absolutely brilliant throughout. I really enjoyed the food and drink service, and I've been really impressed by the comfort of the seat. I think being able to get a good sleep and have nice food, it just leaves you feeling so much more refreshed when you arrive at your destination, and it really did mean that as we arrived into Bali, we were ready to hit the ground running. So if I end up getting this again instead of QSuite, I will not be disappointed at all. Whilst it may be lacking privacy, it doesn't have the sociable aspect of the QSuites when you're travelling as a couple. Some of the more practical elements of the seat more than made up for this. There's much better storage than on QSuite, and it did actually give us a much more comfortable sleep as well. And regardless of which seat you're in, you'll likely still get a great onboard service from Qatar with a brilliant food and drink service. Thanks for watching, and if you want to check out that QSuite experience, watch this video next.